Fighting In-Laws is the 9th episode of the 5th season of Everybody Loves Raymond. This is directed by Michael Zinberg, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. It's not a bad episode. I think it's a nice way of showing that nobody knows what's happening behind closed doors, and just because somebody's life may look perfect, that's not necessarily the case. But it's not the most interesting episode either, so I'm kind of on the fence with whether or not I like this one. It is a Thanksgiving episode, and it starts off with Debra's parents arriving. Marie greets them very kindly, but then immediately offers the children Tootsie Pops, because of course she wants to be the favourite grandmother. And they're staying in Ray and Debra's room, and Ray goes down into the kitchen in the middle of the night to get something to drink, and he hears Debra's parents coming down the stairs, so he hides. And it turns out that they're actually in the middle of an argument. Warren and Lois are fighting, and it turns out they're also not going on vacation to where they said they were going. They're actually going for marriage counselling, which is not something somebody should be ashamed of. That's a really healthy, mature thing to do if your relationship is not necessarily where it should be or where you think it should be to be a healthy, happy relationship. But of course, they don't want to tell people. They want to keep up this pretense that everything's happy and perfect and they're going on these vacations. But clearly they're not happy with each other, and Ray is witness to this behind the door. And the following morning, he tells Debra, well, he gives her little tidbits of what he learned while she's basting the turkey or whatever she's doing to it. And she tries to not sound bothered. So her parents fought. People fought. But ultimately, she's clearly bothered because she ends up dropping the turkey on the floor. We get this fantastic physical comedy from Patricia Heaton as she's sliding around and trying to grab onto the turkey, and she ends up just throwing it into the oven. And it was great, and clearly she definitely is bothered. And we're near the end of the episode. We're over halfway through now. Not a tremendous amount has happened, and it's not exactly been that funny. In fact, I think for me, maybe Ray's response when he hid in the garage was quite funny, and then Debra with the turkey, definitely funny. But up until that point, not a lot had really happened in terms of the narrative progressing or the comedy. Robert leaving the house after he awkwardly gave Lois a kiss on the cheek, I guess that was quite funny as well. And Lois and Warren then end up fighting in front of everybody, and clearly they're getting out a lot of built-up anger, and considering they've already been fighting, it seems like there's still a lot more that they're holding on to. And we end the episode with Marie and Lois bonding and Frank and Warren bonding, and it's not a bad way to end things, but it's not that interesting. So I do like the messages here that, first of all, people have marriage counselling, and that's fine. It's a good thing if you need it. You also don't need to hide this. Also, if you have to hide in the garage, don't sleep on a children's sled. Well, I don't know if he specified it was a children's sled or an adult-sized sled, but either way, Ray didn't exactly handle things very sensibly. And also, parents can have problems, and obviously Debra doesn't want to think that her parents are going through problems, but our parents are people too. And I think there are some good takeaways here, that not everything is what it seems behind closed doors. People have problems, and that's okay as long as they work them out in a healthy manner. And Lois and Warren seem to be trying to do that. But I feel like because they're having to lie about things, it's giving them that extra stress, and it's just adding to the situation. So some good ideas here for how not to handle the situation as well. It's not necessarily a bad episode, although I will say, and I think I've said this for pretty much every episode in this season so far, I don't know if it's the case with every episode, but certainly for the bulk of them, the endings are almost always, really, really flat. They just seem to drop off, and I'm almost always, feeling like I'm left wanting more. Like, there has to be something else. This can't be the end. And as I said, this is not unique to this episode. I don't remember feeling this way in previous seasons, but certainly with this season, the episodes just seem like they're missing a scene, or they're missing some comedy at the end, and that's definitely the case here as well, to the point where I'm watching it on Amazon Prime, and sometimes the episode will end, and without having an advert, it will just begin the next episode. And I have to kind of think, hang on, have I just started a new episode here? And that was certainly the case here. So, not a strong ending, but that's not unique to this episode. I don't know if it's unique to this season. I really can't remember. But either way, the ending, or lack thereof, aside, it's not a bad episode. but I'd also say that fighting in-laws isn't the strongest. But ultimately, we have some good takeaways nevertheless.